Switzerland is also a very interesting market to start because you have a lot of different regions, different languages.
Welcome to the Swisspreneur Show, a podcast about startup stories and learnings from experienced entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Sylvan.
Oliver, a very well welcome to the Swisspreneur Show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hey, Sylvan. Thanks for having me.
You're the co-founder and CEO at Nomady, a platform to book your camping spot away from the regular camping. So before we talk about that, I want to talk about your personal background. You actually studied business administration in Luzern, and you then worked in a bank before you then joined the startup world. So I wonder, why did you actually take the jump and switch from the traditional corporate careers in a bank to the startup world, which is much more unstable and different than the regular corporate world?
Yes, it's definitely. Yes, where should I start to this question? I may have an entrepreneurial background. By side the banking, I already started some other it's not a real venture, but for example, I started with my woman a drive-in coffee shop in Einsiedeln.
Nice.
So, but after a year, we saw together, okay, maybe the gastronomy is not really our business. It was cool. It was a really a great experience also for entrepreneur things. But I have a real big passion for the outdoors. This is I'm in the forest since I can walk, actually. So I just grew up next to the forest. I always went to watch animals and stuff as a little boy. And yes, 10 years ago, I made, as I worked at the bank, I made an outdoor guide course in Alaska. And yeah, this is where actually also Nomady a bit started. So
what happened there?
Well, yes, it was 10 years ago. This was is NOLS. This is a National Outdoor Leadership School. This is quite an amazing course. It's about 6 or 7 weeks. You are in the outback with 6 other students. And you learn there also about leadership, for example, about how you prepare for an expedition, how you pack food for 6 or 7 weeks, because this really is up in the Arctic in Alaska, so it's quite wild. And yes, there it started. And the instructor, his name is Red. He became a real good friend of mine. In the next years after this trip, we made several trips together, only he and I, or maybe some friends. Mm-hmm. And yes, after, what was it, 8 years later, I organized an expedition for 4 clients, for Swiss clients, also on the Noatak River, so the same river again, the same region. And it was mainly not for earning money, but just that we can finance our own trip, actually, because it's quite expensive to go up there.
Right.
You fly far away, you take a lot of food and stuff, and yes, and on this trip also Paolo was in the group. Paolo, I asked him also as a photographer, so we have great pictures of the whole trip. We were there around 4 weeks on the river, so only paddling about 600 kilometers. And there, of course, you have a lot of time, to discuss about the career, where should it go and what you want to do. And it's not really that the idea for this marketplace came on the river, to be honest, but it's more to take the decision, or to be to be brave enough, for example, to say, okay, come on, let's go in this great nature. You can see, okay, how we want to make nice places in nature accessible in a sustainable way. This is really where it's not born, but where I took the decision. And yes, I came home from this trip and said goodbye to the bank. Really, just 2 days after that, I quit the job and started.
It's crazy because you didn't start that as a side hustle on the side to your existing banking job. Mm-hmm. You just said, I quit and I go all in. Why was that the right decision for you?
Yes, what's the right decision? Of course, when you do it that way, you also need something behind, let's say, or you need some money to say it. And as I told you before, I also had some entrepreneur experience before. One was this coffee shop. There I didn't make a lot of money, but in other project I bought a house, and a really old one, quite crazy, and me and my wife and me renovated it, and we worked quite hard on it, and it was a great investment actually. We sold it after a few years, and where's the money from to start really nice. Not as a side hustle, because otherwise I'm not rich. So this was the capital I had to say, okay, now 1 or 2 years I can survive. I also have a family, so it's not really that you can just live with 1,000 or 2,000 francs. So, but it was, let's say, I think it was really good, because then you have a lot of time, of course, and you also need to do really something. So otherwise, when you see, okay, after a month, there's nothing done. So what you want is, it's really important that you make progress.
So it's really also the money in the bank, the savings that you saved over the past years, and with the real estate deal, exactly. That gave you the peace of mind to say, hey, I have 1 or 2 years of runway where I can really focus on the company and don't need to stress out about how to pay my bills and how to feed my family.
Yes, that's correct, like this. Of course, you always are a little bit nervous about the money. That this is always, because it's not only about the savings, just the running costs. You also need to invest, and you say, okay, let's take this 100K for the AG and then build this MVP and stuff. So it's already not just the time. So it's also the first investments we invested, or I invested for my own capital. Yeah.
You know, very often we see founders, even at the very early stage, to take on external money pretty early on. For you, that was never an option to consider at the beginning, to really start the early days and finance that with external money instead of your own money?
Well, if I had to, why not? It's what I did as I bought the house in the real estate, to be honest. It's not that I had a lot of capital before, so there I was a little bit creative, because I know a little bit how finance works. It was my job. And yes, if I wouldn't have the chance to make these investments by my own money, why not? Because there's capital in the world, and for smart money, I think there's always a possibility for that.
Makes sense. Now, then you also mentioned your co-founder, Paolo. You started the company, founded the company together in 2019. How did you actually meet Paolo? Because you invited him as a photographer on your Alaska trip, but you have known him before. So how did that happen? And how did you then find the decision, hey, we're actually a good team to start a company together?
Well, do you know that before? I don't know. Maybe you should, but Paolo is also the brother from my wife. So I know him quite a long time. And I really know him very well also from Alaska, of course, because there you sleep in the same tent for several weeks. You're on the canoe for hundreds of hours. And so I can really say, okay, I know him. He joined a few months after I started. So the first few weeks or months, I did a little bit, how can I say, on the white paper, some things, and then I could convince him, come on, let's go for it. And yeah, it's just great to have him on board, because it's really, how can I say, a lot of other complementary skills. So Paolo, he comes from design world. He's really good in branding and in photography, and you know, at Nomady, it's a lot about pictures. It's a lot about storytelling. It's a lot about
really the emotions, basically.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about emotions. Yeah, and that's why it's great to have him on board. And also how the website looks like is really thanks to Paolo for that.
Yeah, that's really important. At the same time, I also wonder, why don't you have a CTO, a technical person in your team? Because at the end, you are a technical product with the technical platform, right?
Yes, that's correct. If I had no one before, of course, we would start maybe like this, a 3-person, but it just wasn't, I hadn't a contact, or I didn't know someone who's really, I can join him as a co-founder. But right now we are quite on a good way, and our head of IT is on the way. And yes, but you're absolutely correct. At the end, it's a really technical product. It's a platform, and the tech know-how, it's really important.
What I really liked about how you did that, you built that yourself, and therefore probably also significantly reduced the overhead and went out to test the platform as fast as possible. I just still wonder, not having a CTO on your team, was that also difficult in the early days? Was that a big challenge for you?
Yes, of course it was. It would be easier if you have someone in the founder team, but that's cool today, I think, also when you see how easy MVP can be done. I guess 4 or 5 years ago, that's absolutely not possible. And there was so much going on also in the marketplace world. Of course, it's not really nice. It's not a lot of function at the very beginning, but you don't need that to start. You just need to have something, and then listen to the people, listen to the hosts, listen to the users, and then decide, okay, here's something's going on, here's a market, and then let's go. And then, of course, you also invest more money for it.
Exactly. And you're active in the tourist market, something that from the outside seems to be quite saturated. There are many different offerings. How do you actually differentiate yourself? Because you seem to capitalize on a different trend, a new up-and-coming trend of sustainable tourism.
Mm-hmm. Well, is it saturated? I don't really think so, to be honest. Of course, if you look at the normal tourism world, maybe yes, but if you look at this needs about sustainable tourism, about being in nature and away from crowded places, I think this trend also before the crisis, before COVID, was a big thing, and it's really a growing market.
Yeah, and is that one thing that convinced you to go into that market, or was it really mostly your personal passion for the space?
Mm-hmm. I would say passion is really a big thing in my venture, but also I always said, okay, I actually knew I want to be an entrepreneur. So when I really do it, to start a venture, I also want to do something good. Mm-hmm. So what's good for me is good. Also, for example, look at this actual problem, at these problems we have in the climate crisis and stuff. And the tourism is also something what can be done better, I think. And a model like we do in it on Nomady is, to contribute something to the problem we have at the moment.
Yeah, understand. And can you also quickly explain the process, for hosts, but also for guests, and how your business model behind the Nomady platform looks like?
Sure. So, what is Nomady? So, to say it in one sentence, it's like an Airbnb for camping and the outdoors. So, on the one side, we have the camper. On the other side, on the marketplace, we have the host, and we combine them. And we work as a transaction-based business model. So we take a commission from both sides, and from there we try to live.
And you mentioned the platform business, right?
Yeah.
So that's usually a chicken and egg problem that you do have to solve at the beginning. How do you actually solve that?
Yeah, that's made the biggest problem you need to solve as a marketplace entrepreneur. So how we solved it? Yes, I started in Einsiedeln. This is where I come from, quite in the countryside. And I know some landowners or some farmers. Mm-hmm. And I just went to them and pitched them my idea. It was really easy. You also take a coffee with them. You're going out and try to ask, or you ask them, hey, come on, why don't try it? It's not, you don't have to pay anything. Or, of course, they look a little bit strangely, what camping? Someone wants to camp at this land. And I say, yes, for sure. So I started with the supply, really focused. So just about 5 or 6 hosts near Einsiedeln. Yeah. And there I had this MVP. Mm-hmm. And And then I started to ask friends or make a little bit Facebook ads, or not really ads, just some posts, and say, come on, here a new possibility for camping. And then it really started really, really slow, of course. But I don't know, maybe there's also another strategy to start in another way. Mostly in this kind of business, it's that you start with a little bit supply and then immediately try to get demand on it. That's the challenge, I guess.
Yeah. And you really did focus on very nice spots, I would say. You focused on the quality. So for you, it was not as important to get as many spots as possible on your platform, but you wanted to get the right spots, the top spots. Why was that the right decision?
That's correct. That's really, I always said, okay, the first 100 spots, they need to be absolutely perfect. Mm-hmm. This also means, okay, this is where I want to camp. This is where I want to bring my family, for example. And this is also quite expensive, so you drive to them and you have several discussions and then go with Paolo again to the spot, camp there, make great pictures. But this was also, I think, a little bit the key, because with these nice pictures we had, with these amazing hosts, I really need to say that too. It's really great, just great people. And so the first customers, campers who came, they had a really great experience. And this is also cool, because when you have a great experience, something like that, you just type it to your friends, you write it on WhatsApp or whatever, or on Facebook. And this is, when I look back, quite a crucial thing, to really focus. We still focus on great quality, but of course you grow, and it's not possible to get this 100% maybe. But still, when we go to a new region, I always do the same.
So it's for you really like, would I like to camp here? Is that a good spot for me personally? And then it's a yes or a no.
Yes, this is what I try to say also in my team. So please, what's nice when you go camping? Right. It's great to have a table, a wooden table, for example. It's great to have a compost toilet, for example, and not this chemical things, and some not really expensive things. And of course, it's nice to be a little bit for yourself, maybe to have a nice overview to the landscape, or be next to a river. And this is at the end also not only what I like, it's also what the customers actually love. Yeah.
That's amazing, because with your own experience and passion that you built over the past years, you're really good at judging the right spots. That's probably also your unfair advantage to other people who don't have that passion or experience and just see the pure business perspective.
Yes, I think you need to have both, maybe. Of course, if it's only for me, this platform, it would be even wilder. Right. To be honest, I really love it to be really wild. But of course, you also then the business part comes in, and sometimes there is a street, or you can see a street. Of course, we live in Switzerland, so it's not that wild. But still, there are 100 or let's say 1,000 of nice places also in Switzerland that would be a match for Nomady.
Yeah, there are thousands of places in Switzerland, but at the same time, Switzerland is also a pretty small market. Was that ever a challenge for you? When you thought about the potential size and the scope of the business that you're building here, that the Swiss market might just be too small for you?
Yes, this is maybe for all scalable business. I would say Switzerland is a small market, but Switzerland is also a very interesting market to start, because you have a lot of different regions, different languages, different cultures that you already can check out a bit in the same country. But yes, to say, okay, this marketplace just from the business model, also from the transaction size we have, we need to think international. That's absolutely clear.
So that was clear for you from day one.
Yes.
You do have to go international.
Yes.
And for you, international, does that mean European wide or even worldwide?
I would say more European wide. Well, you never know what happens. But I think the European market, when it comes to camping and the autos, is such a great market. I say there we have some work for the next years.
Sounds like a good plan. Another challenge that we, of course, often heard, read, and viewed videos and news about was the COVID crisis. So it really significantly impacted the whole travel industry. So I guess you also felt an effect, but maybe not the one that that we expected to have it. So can you talk a bit more about what impact that COVID had on your business?
Well, I have really two sides on COVID. So the positive side and the side where we struggled. And when I start with the struggling side, we were just it was March 2020, and we were just negotiating with investors. We really, after 1.5 years of my own money, it went out, of course, and we needed external money, because we already had our first employee. And yes, after this COVID started, no investor was interested anymore at the very beginning. Of course, I had some discussions with lawyers and say, sorry, the world is changing. We don't know what's up tomorrow. And this was really crazy, because I really said, okay, let's move to a side business, maybe start again working at the bank or whatever. But then gladly we saw, okay, on the other side, the demand side was really crazy. After 1 or 2 weeks, people really signed up. It was, we just, whoa, okay, the business is on the demand side is great.
Yeah, they couldn't go and travel abroad, right?
Exactly, they couldn't go travel abroad at once. And also this kind of camping was just perfect. So you have your own place. Most of the Nomady hosts offer just 1 or maybe 2 sites. And during COVID, we asked them, come on, let's change to a COVID confirmed offer. And so we bootstrapped again another, let's say, 6 or 7 months. Of course, no salary again, but the most important thing that we could, running the business, and postponed our first round about 6 or 7 months, and this was, to look back, actually great.
Water damage or a fire in the office building can mean the end of your startup if you're not properly insured. Whether I'm just starting a new company or growing fast, the topic of insurance is often not a top priority, and that's totally fine. Yet, it's hugely important to be properly covered here. On a personal recommendation, I turned to the insurance broker WSR Partner with my first company. The advice is highly professional and completely independent. As an expert, WSR Partner understands the situation of my startup and obtains quotes from various insurance companies so that I can choose the best offer. They are paid directly by the insurance companies. There were no costs for me at all. Because we work with Alex and the team of WSR Partner, we offer you a free consultation. Get independent and professional advice, whether for startups or an insurance check for established companies. Book your free appointment now at www.swisspreneur.org/WSR. This is really remarkable. So you basically reduced your salary to a very low or even zero amount and completely bootstrapped the business with the incoming cash flow for 6 to 7 months, just to show strong numbers to then convince the investors later down the road.
Yes, that's actually
very nice move, because many companies, they would die in that situation.
Yeah, it was quite near, to be honest. Yeah, but thanks to the cash flow we never expected, to be honest, at this early stage in these figures, was great. Yeah.
But what keeps you going in that moment? I mean, of course, you then have the strong numbers, but you don't know that it's going to happen that way when you do have to make the decision, because you invested your personal money in it, you reduce your salary to zero. What keeps you going in that moment instead of just saying, hey, we tried it, it's not going to work, bad timing, COVID hit, we can't change it, we're going to give up and close the shop?
Yeah, it's really that you see, okay, there's coming sign-ups, hundreds and then thousands, and you see, okay, it's just a matter of time, where also after a few weeks, to be honest, some investors came back and say, okay, maybe there's something okay, we also with COVID, and then of course we postponed it a little bit. from ourselves, to be honest, also
Sure.
to finish the camping season and show, okay, this is the figures we have. Yes, it's to be honest, it's the need from the market that we went on. Yeah,
That can push you a long way, I can
yeah,
imagine.
definitely.
Were you then actually able to sort of flip the table and, get into a stronger negotiation position? Because at first they were not interested. We had your wall back to the wall a bit, but then you actually had the strong numbers to show the significant growth, revenue coming in. Did that change your negotiation position or tactics in any way with the investors?
I wouldn't say that's the tactic that changed, but of course you have more traction than you had to make. In a seed round, usually you don't have a lot of traction, and then we could postpone it a bit. But at the end, of course, you have a little bit a higher valuation. That's clear. And we were at this point where you really can say, okay, this is a great moment to raise the first round, because it's always better when you have more traction on it. That's clear. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you also have an appearance on the Höhle der Löwen show here in Switzerland, where you also then found Roland Brack, for example, as investor. Can you talk a bit more about the impact that the show had on your business? Because some people say it was amazing. We had so many new signups and clients, and others said, oh, we actually expected much more, and really nothing much came out of the show appearance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was quite crazy, this Höhle der Löwen, to be honest. So around 6 or 7 cameras at you, and we were quite nervous, to be honest. Also Paolo, but the experience was great, and at the end it was great to learn Roland Brack as a great person. He was then relatively after the show also said, okay, I can see something's going on and I'm still interested in this investment. This was really great for us. And of course you're on a TV show, and if you do not too bad in this show, I think also Höhle der Löwen Schwyzer is not that bad if you compare it a little bit to other let's say Shark Tank maybe, or
right.
I would also say in Germany they're a little bit harder to the founders, and in Switzerland they're quite okay.
We're more the nice guys here.
Yeah, and yes, so I would say it helped us. Of course, our website just quickly went down when it was the Ausstrahlung.
That's always a good sign.
Yeah, I was a little bit angry, to be honest, but of course we're not there when it comes to the performance for our platform. That
Sure.
when immediately come several thousand clicks, and we have a lot of pictures on the site, so it went down. But yeah, it can happen. But yeah, at the end, I'm really thankful that we were there. Also in Earlycon, I think, was the TV show, and yes, I look forward. We are again in as a Rückblick. I don't know what's the word.
A nice review,
A
basically.
review, exactly. And yeah.
Fantastic. And how do you actually work with your investors? Of course, Roland Brack is one of them, but you also have other prominent investors like André Lutti or one of the Threema founders. So how do you actually work with them? How do they support you along the journey?
Yeah, this was very important for me to have real entrepreneurs in the board or as investors, because yes, in this early stage you need to call them up and ask some difficult questions, and it's great also to have these also the famous ones like Roland or Andre. I can call them and they take the time, and we have really interesting discussions. Also with Silvan Engler, the co-founder from Threema. It's great to have him on board because he has so much know-how when it comes to these technical things, and also the InnoFund, of course, from the Schwyzer Kantonalbank, maybe the most experienced investor in the group. And it's really nice. When you raise money, it's also, you open it. And it's, as I told you before, I wanted to make something good. And I convinced them, okay, with the Nomady Pact, this pact we have on our platform, I asked them also to sign this one in the agreement, actually. So it's not a binding document, of course, but it's a little bit that they see, okay, this guy wants to make business, of course. This investor comes in also for money. That's clear. But it's a little bit more. So we really stand for sustainable tourism, and you can do both. You can make something good, sustainable, and also something that at the end that you earn money.
So it's really also the value fit, the mission fit that is important to you for your investors, and probably also all the other partners that you work with.
Yes, exactly.
And that's actually a good segue. You also have many partnerships that helped you to build Nomady to the scale that it is today. What are the key partnerships that you established early on to lay the successful ground for, the expansion, the platform build up?
Yes, these relationships are very important, mainly at the beginning on the supply side, because you come in as a new brand, no one knows you, camping on private land in Switzerland, just let's say.
Are you crazy?
Yeah, and didn't really exist. So it really needs a lot of explanation about it. And so we're happy that we won this innovation prize from the Schwyzer Berghilfe, because Schwyzer Berghilfe, everyone knows it. On the supply side, really, also the farmers up in the mountains. Oh, Schwyzer Berghilfe, this must be something good. So Nomady must something good.
That's really interesting, but I think that's a great summary how Switzerland works. If they see something that they know and trust, that can be an association or whatever, then they also start trusting you. So I think the signaling is so crucial to lay the successful work to then also open doors to potential partners and hosts in your case.
Yeah, in our case, it's really the host because, just consider you come up to up in the mountains, somewhere in Sanfiental, in Graubünden, and hey, come on, let's join to a outdoor or a marketplace for the outdoors or for camping. They say, what's that? So you really need this trust. And this was great also with the first tourism regions. We were really happy to convince there, for example, Graubünden Ferien. They were really early on. And what's also important is Innovation Emmental Napf. It's a foundation. They introduced us to the important people in the communes. And so it became to a strategy at the end to really work together with these partners. It's also about the regulations. You can't grow this business early on just on a scalable way with Google Ads or something like this. Of course, now we're doing it too, but at the beginning, you need partners. You need to go to talk to them. And then after you have a base for it, then you can start scaling.
I think it's really interesting. So it's not only about the recognition and the brand to build trust that you won from the partnerships, but actually real introductions to hosts to build the network and your product in the end. So it was really much more than just a building a trust brand, basically.
Yeah.
You also mentioned regulations. Regulations can also be quite challenging because from every canton to canton, you have different regulations about the taxes that people have to pay for overnight stays. How do you deal with that? Because I also imagine from an infrastructure perspective to build that into your product.
It's crazy.
If I were the CTO, that would cost me sleepless nights and really that would be a nightmare. So how do you do that?
Yeah, the regulations really, let's say, it's a little bit both, because in Switzerland you have this law on the Bundesebene, on the highest federal level, and then each canton do his own, and also from the communes do their own, and that's also this is an advantage and a disadvantage. Advantage is, of course, no one can say, okay, it's not working anymore, because each one doing it a little bit different. The complicated thing is really that you talk to a lot of different people, a lot of different communes. But I'm pretty sure, because it's really a tourism, everyone is getting his positive effect of it. I'm pretty sure that this kind of tourism, also camping by farmers on farmers' land, will be easier in the future.
Why do you think that?
Because look at our farming structure at the moment. So when you look in the future from the abroad, these cheap products coming. I think agrotourismus. I really see a great future for agrotourismus, but it has to be sustainable. So it's not the mass tourism, and I really see a great chance.
So that's an interesting market analysis because of the increasing competition from abroad. You think that the local farmers here in Switzerland or everywhere in the world, basically, they do have to diversify their income streams, and agrotourism is one way to do so.
Exactly. So if I just have a look, for example, these first few hosts, I helped him on board in 2019. He has now one place, really just one, but a beautiful one. Mm-hmm. He earns over 10,000 Swiss francs with just one place and one camping spot. So this is a great side business for him.
Yeah. Per month or per year?
Per year.
Yeah. Soon per month.
Yeah. Well, per month it would be with just one spot. It would.
Yeah, of course. But if they expand, who knows?
Yeah, if they do more, yes, sure.
Let's also talk about the pricing point, because if you look as an inexperienced person as I am when it comes to camping, unfortunately, then you might think, hey, these camping spots, they look like stunning. They look beautiful, but the prices also look stunning, quite high from my experience, from my perspective. Is that a challenge for you to be able to sell them? Because people might also say, hey, for that price, I could also get a cheap hotel room somewhere.
Yeah, this is also a very important point, the added values for the host, because imagine you're a farmer and you offer this nice spot. You maybe build a compost toilet somewhere, or you also have firewood, you work a bit, you maybe work 20 or a half an hour for that if a camper comes. So why should he not earn something for that? This is really what you say at Nomady. And at the end, the host sets his own price. It's not what you say to them. But of course, we have a lot of discussions with hosts, and they ask us, hey, what do you think? Can I charge here 20, 30, 40 francs or even 60 francs, and we have a look at it and consult them a bit. But at the end, he sets the price, and we say, okay, let's have a look at the price what you usually pay on a normal commercial campground in Switzerland. That's around 42 francs for two person, and this is also where Nomady's a little bit more expensive. Some places, some are less expensive, but at the end you have your own place there. You don't share it with hundreds others. You usually have some firewood there. You have you have your experience in the outdoors, and but to be honest, it's also Nomady is not you. It's not the place to find the cheapest place for your overnight.
I mean, you also get really a lot of value of your private spot, the beautiful spots that you have on your platform. So it's also fair to have a price tag for that.
Yes, and don't forget the culture experience too, because the hosts also, not all of them, of course, but some really like to have a talk with them, or maybe show the farm, or show and this is also it's more an experience than just a service. Yeah.
So I also wonder, how do you actually balance profitability versus growth? So now you do have investors on board. I guess with investors, you do have certain growth trajectories that you have to hit in the future. You have a certain plan. At the same time, you also probably don't want to grow too fast, because we already heard that might sort of reduce the quality of the overall spots that you offer on the platform. So how do you balance that to have enough growth, but also focus on the profitability and sustainability? Is it so important to you?
Yes, it's really to be somewhere also profitable is also sustainable, I would say. So that's why we not have this strategy to start with almost no commission, or just 5%, for example. It's just not doable, to be honest, to have this transaction size. When you camp somewhere and pay 60 francs and you get 5% of it, that's totally the wrong business model for it.
Yeah.
So it's also we try and error. So we tried to start a little bit higher, and we see, okay, this was very important also in the bootstrapping 2019 there. We were really glad. And now we're just thinking a bit, okay, can we reduce it? a bit, but we will never go to this really low cost or 5% commission. It always has, you also, as an entrepreneur, you also have to show not also to the investors that you are able to earn money. And it's always easier to come down a little bit with the commission than going up. Of course, you can say on the other hand, but you don't have this fast growth. We managed it, to be honest. We have quite amazing growth also with a good pricing grid.
Nice. What's your current commission that you take?
At the moment, we take 15% on both sides. So the camper pays 15% and the host pays 15%.
Nice.
And it's also about the values. When I ask a host, hey, how you think about this 15%? And he don't really say, oh, that's too expensive. He just asks for other services. And say, I say, okay, I can, for example, why you guys don't build an app, or can you help me a little bit more about these taxes we discussed before, Kurtaxen, and so we try to go more on this side, so provide more value added for the host, and then we don't have to discuss about this 10 or 15%.
So it's really the partnership that is important there.
Yeah.
If we look at your journey, you basically managed from being an employee in a bank. Through your own passion, you built a sustainable and fast-growing outdoor business. You have 350 hosts on your platform, 19,000 users, and also 49,000 overnight stays. I think these are super impressive numbers. So of course, we all ask ourselves, what's next for you? What's next for Nomady? What are your plans for the future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also look. It's a nice thing to see these figures, but of course we are not there where we want to be. As I said at the beginning, we say, okay, actually, whole Europe is interesting for us. At the beginning, maybe also the whole Alpine region, because I really hope after this COVID, also traveling will be easier, and you may travel to Austria or travel to Germany, to France, and there we can really start with our existing communities with this 19,000 users and start also to build a community up abroad.
So expansion is definitely the next step for you.
Yes.
Which market do you tackle first?
To be honest, we're just negotiating that right now. We're testing. So I'm more the man who practical wants to see, not really just to write down numbers and a lot of paperwork. So I was in Italy a few weeks ago. We were in France. We were in Austria to meet people, to talk to them, and well, in the next few weeks we should be there and say, okay, let's go there or there. Nice. So somewhere next to Switzerland.
Perfect. That makes sense.
Yeah.
In Switzerland, you're basically the place to go, right? Like if anybody wants to book a private camping spot, they use Nomady. Internationally, there is a bit more competition. There are other platforms out there in the markets. So what is your strategy there? Do you want to outgrow them and become bigger, like the biggest in Europe, for example? Or because you have investors, are you also open for a potential acquisition or any exit strategy that might come along the way?
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course. You're right. In Switzerland, we're not really affected by hard competitors. But when we start going international, of course, there are some, mainly one from the United States, who's doing, to be honest, a great job. And but they not in Europe so far. And yeah, I think really need to focus what we are great in, and that's the outdoors, the experience thing, also our brand and the added value for the host. And I think there is quite a big niche still to cover, and there are also some countries where we can adapt our business model, where I really see a great opportunity for it. And of course, who knows what happens in the next few years? We're quite open to it.
You're open and see what the future brings.
Yes, exactly.
So I really like to have you as a camping expert here as a podcast guest, because you must have a tremendous share about gadgets and resources. So if you focus on the camping gadget, is there any favorite gadget that you can recommend to our listeners when it comes to camping?
maybe it's not really directly to camping, but my favorite gear is my pack raft. I don't know if you know what the pack raft is.
I have no clue.
This is something I saw, well, maybe 10 years ago as it was the first time in Alaska. This is a really lightweight, floatable kayak. So it's just about 3.5 kilograms, and you can pack it in your backpack and hike up somewhere and then float down also in whitewater. That's really my nice gadget. Not directly to camping, but I often go camping with it because you can take your sleeping bag and you can stuff it into the raft and sleep on it. You can use it as a mat. So there is the connection to camping. You can sleep on it and use it as a shelter. So I would say
that's amazing. I have never heard about that expression before, so I'm really curious to Google it and check it out. For the very last part, we also have a few rapid fire questions for you. So I either give you a quick question or a selection of different options, and you have to explain your choice or your statement in one sentence.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
So the first one, lake or mountains?
Let's say mountains, because less people and it's wilder.
Nice. What advice would you give to your first-time campers?
Check out nomady.ch.
Nice. Weekend stay or week-long getaway?
I prefer week-long or even a month away, long stays. But at the moment, I, as an entrepreneur and as a father of 3 kids, it's more the weekend stay.
I can imagine. Camper van, motorhome, or caravan?
None of them. I'm a tent camper.
Nice. That's a good answer. And the last one for you, I know that's going to be hard, but I'm still very curious to hear your choice. What's the best camping spot you've ever stayed at?
I have to admit it's not Nomady. So it's up in the Brooks Range in the northwest of Alaska, where I had a spot just on a beautiful river. A little tributary came in. Just had to fish salmon next to the camping spot and saw a grizzly bear at the evening.
Wow.
So this is maybe the nicest spot I've ever camped.
I think you mentioned it's not on Nomady yet.
Not yet. Well, this is in Alaska. You don't need Nomady, to be honest. And it's good, so.
Fair point. Oliver, thank you so much for sharing your journey. It's an impressive journey, and we're super excited to see how far you've come, and even more excited to see where you will go in the future. All the best of luck for that.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you, Silvan.
This episode was brought to you by Swisspreneurs' main partner, Clara Business, the digital all-in-one solution for small businesses. Managing internal processes manually and on paper wastes an incredible amount of time. That's why Clara digitizes everything, allowing you to focus on what really matters, your core business. Go to clara.ch to find out how your business administration can be simpler, faster, and more efficient. Again, that's clara.ch.